Whatever the downside of reaching out for help is, I promise you, if you stick it out, the upside is better. Healing happens. It does. It's not a life sentence. Post traumatic stress injuries are not a life sentence. You can heal. I've done a tremendous amount of healing. I don't suffer from suicidal ideations anymore. And all because back in 2017, I finally reached out for help. So ask for help. And if talk therapy is just not your thing, that's what the show is for. I've got every other thing that's available. It's all throughout the show. Just scroll and whatever catches your eye, listen to that episode. It doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start. You got to keep your feet moving. Nobody's coming to save you. 0 people are coming to save you. There is no outreach program. You have to reach out. You have to. Hello, friends. I'm proud to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Canadian Legacy Project. Veterans Affairs Canada is very limited in its service offering to veterans, so the Canadian Legacy Project has stepped up to fill the gap. CLP develops and delivers a full suite of free programs for Canadian veterans. CLP celebrates our veterans by offering meaningful support for healing and the transition to civilian life. Homes for Heroes, Business Boot Camp, service dogs, educational bursaries, equine therapy, and more are available through the Canadian Legacy Project. Find out more at canadianlegacy.org. Hello, all you beautiful souls. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. One of the core bits of this show is to be a resource aggregate. So I go all over the world to try to find people and organizations that help and support the veteran first responder communities. We've got another one for you. And I've got Colleen Howard on the line to talk about Havenpoint Health. Colleen, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me this morning, Mark. I appreciate it and appreciate the work that you do. So keep on going. It's fabulous.
Thank you, sister. I'm doing my best. So Havenpoint, let's start with the physical location. Where is Havenpoint?
Havenpoint is in a number of provinces. Our head office is out of Ottawa, Ontario, and we have a physical presence in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland in the spring, Alberta shortly thereafter, and we're virtual across the country.
Okay, and let's talk about scope of services. So what kind of support does Havenpoint provide, and who do you provide it for?
We provide it for veterans, RCMP members, and first responders. And we are providing what we call whole person health. Our belief is you don't measure up healing by just healing an ankle or a shoulder or somebody's feelings about a traumatic event. It has to be whole body. So we do physical health services and we do mental health services. On the physical side, we help our veterans fill in and track and submit all of their forms that are needed on the back end of things for them to be able to support their disability benefits. And on the mental health side, we do psychological assessments and deliver treatment therapy with a variety of certified folks across Canada.
So what's the difference between yourself and, say, an OSI clinic?
We provide obviously similar services. However, we are working primarily with the individual in their journey, maybe at a different point. OSI clinics are going to provide physical and mental health services, but we are an option for our veterans and RCMP and first responders, and not everybody should have choice. There are lots of us out there, but we like to think that we are each different from one another and provide an option or a choice for our veteran populations.
I haven't seen the OSI clinic doing help with physical support. I haven't seen that, or I haven't seen them working as service officers either, which sadly is critical. What people don't understand is how brutal the system can be. It is so difficult to penetrate the bureaucracy. It's really something. What's been your experience with that?
It has been as a learning curve when we first started into the market and started interacting with all of those. One of the most challenging things is you go to do research, you go to find out. And as our veterans well know, you can call in and get 5 different people and get 5 different answers. And the delays are a common complaint, and it is difficult. It's a tricky system. I am of the firm belief that, and it may or may not be radical, but we believe that we see veterans come in with very, very similar, same thing for first responders, same thing for RCMP. You see that there is a pattern of injuries. Yes, there are slight differences between each individual, but there is a common theme in terms of the physical impact and the mental health impact. So, why make it so difficult to get access to services? Sometimes they wonder and we wonder. It's tricky, it's complicated, and it's overwhelming. And that's one of the things that we really try to ensure that we make it easier and that we work with veteran agencies who are doing the same thing and helping navigate and helping to make it easier.
Within the veteran community, we're always wondering, is this on purpose? Like, is this horrible on purpose? Or is it just incompetence? And I think it's probably a bit of both. I think it's incompetence that they're okay with, which is the same as on purpose.
Mhm.
You know, I think they stand down on purpose because, like, well, okay, the bigger the bureaucracy, the more jobs we have, and the less efficient we are, the more jobs we have, and the better the job security. And that's what it seems like. But back and PCVRS, they're really hit and miss. There are good stories. You know, there are
Yes.
people that feel fully served, and they're very, very grateful. And that's great. I love to hear the good news stories. I don't want to be the guy that's always talking about the negative of it, because
Yeah.
there is positive. The downside, though, is that most people are not clerks, especially infantry grunts like me. You put 500 steps in front of me and say, "Okay, jump through the flaming hoops and tap dance on a meat grinder," and then maybe you'll get the benefits, but probably not. You'll have to appeal. So
Mhm.
after you jump through the flaming hoops of fire and tap dance on the meat grinder and dodge a wood chipper, then after all of that, okay,
Yep.
maybe we'll deny you the first time, but then we'll say yes the second time. Like, that's what the process is like most of the time for most of the people. At least that's what I've been finding. On your end of things, like, what would you say is the ratio of success stories where VAC is just reasonable and says, yeah, okay, here you go. Clearly, this is an issue, and here's the correct amount of compensation the first time without having to appeal it. Like, how often does that happen, would you say?
Pretty rarely, unfortunately. And you can go in arming them with as much documentation and supporting information. It's why we use our nurse practitioners on the physical side of things to fill in forms and get back up and send in. But there is somehow some resistance to just making it easy, and hard to say where that comes from, but it is a long process. It's a disheartening process. One of the things I heard early on, working with veterans, uh, was, I'm waiting till I retire to chase after this because this is a full-time job. Like,
Yeah.
okay, hang on. Hang on. There's something wrong if you've got something that could be supported while you're while you're still serving, something that could still be supported while you're serving, that you're afraid to take that on because there's that barrier of how much time it will
And
take.
also, they don't backdate from the time of injury. They only
No,
backdate to the time of application.
that's right. Yeah,
So if you apply now and it takes 4 years to get a yes, well, you get 4 years of back pay, but
yeah.
it's from the time of application.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think unfortunately it is difficult. I keep thinking that I hope someday it'll come to the fact that there is a recognition of standard injuries that happen, standard impacts, and that we could somehow make it easy as there's transition. Yes, there's transition support. Yes, everybody's trying to do their best, but why do they have to fight so hard to get recognized for what we know are standard cervical, thoracolumbar, shoulders, wrists, elbows, hands, hips, knees, feet, craziness? When you see that profile come in over and over and over again, anxiety, depression, PTSD, like it's just so standard. In the last year, we've serviced 950 veterans in RCMP. You just see it over and over and over again, and it shouldn't be so hard to get the benefits that will support, because I think the as you say, there are some that get there. There are some that get there faster, but there seems to be no rhyme or reason, and that's frustrating, right?
Do you think it's just incompetence, or do you think it's predatory, acting like an insurance company trying to say yes as seldom as possible?
Oh, if I had the key, key or the ability to make a difference in that call, I don't know. I think sometimes that it is in fact a combination of both. I really do, and I think unfortunately, unless you actually, I spent a lot of time, my younger career, working with children with neurodiversity and complex special needs and medical histories. And again, that population struggled to be understood. I think unless you sit down and you actually talk to veterans and you talk to the people that were there and you hear their stories, you're not getting it. And I just don't feel sometimes that the people who are making those decisions and saying denied or approved are in touch enough with the actual person, not just the form, the person. And if you think about it, when you have 8, 9, 10, 12 forms, where's the triggering that allows you to look at that as the person making the decision and say, oh, hang on, this is a whole lot for this one person to be dealing with. This shouldn't be denied. This should be approved, right? So I think it's a disconnect with the audience that they're actually there to support and service.
My therapist at the OSI clinic, there were several times where she looked at me with this smug look on her face of she didn't believe me, or like I was a scammer or something. And she was doing that before I knew that there was even any financial um, benefits to injuries. I had no idea. But it is I think every now and then you get somebody like that that looks at us as like scammers, um, or they're upset at our benefits because they're jealous, like they don't think that we deserve them. And these are people in the system, like the
Mm-hmm.
actual therapists that are supposed to be there helping us
Mm-hmm.
along the way. And have you heard of stories like that as well, where people in the system, either at VAC or at an OSI clinic, that they treat us like we're scammers, and they start at no?
They absolutely, we hear it from our veterans or CMP all the time, and
Ah, it's too bad.
unfortunately, it just seems to be that there is this predisposition that it can't be possible, that there must be an angle you're playing, that there's a reason. And it's insanity, especially when you think about it in the therapeutic relationship that's supposed to exist between a therapist and the patient that they're seeing. for any therapy to be beneficial, it's 80 to 90% of the success of that is the ability to connect and trust. And that's what our veterans will come in and say, please tell me it'll be different than X, Y, or Z. And that's not okay. To have to, and I hear it all the time, to have to fight so hard. Many of them get to a point where they're just ready to give up, right? And they do. Look at the suicide rates. Let's straight talk. Look at the level of suicide and suicidal ideation that goes on day in and day out. And tell me somehow you can't connect that to a group of people who have experienced, for the benefit of their country, horrific things. Unacceptable, right?
It has been my experience as I've gone through it, and I've seen so many others. Because, like yourself, I'm at a center point within the veteran community, right? So I get a lot of the crosswinds, and I see and hear a lot of the stories firsthand and secondhand. But coming up against the giant wall of bureaucracy and trying to push through it and being treated like a scammer when you're embarrassed to come forward and ask for help in the first place,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
that stigma and embarrassment gets increased, not decreased. Instead of being a nice, warm place to land, which it has to be, you have to keep fighting. I know that causes suicide, because the idea is like the feeling to the veteran going through the process. First of all, the beginning of the process, for myself and for so many others, putting up your hand and saying, yeah, I frickin' need help. I can't do this on my own. It's the hard, like one of the hardest moments of my entire life was picking up that phone and calling the Royal Canadian Legion, because I didn't know who else I was supposed to call. So I called Northwest Command out of Calgary, and they got the ball rolling for me. And that was the most brutal thing. They even cut me a check for $3,500 out of the Poppy Fund, because I was fucked. Like, I was in such bad shape. I was behind in everything. My life was falling apart for the second time. And plus the pressure on my family, because I was not holding my own. I was the opposite of the breadwinner. I was a dependent of my wife. She was the breadwinner. And then my stepkids looking down their nose at me because I wasn't able to keep a job. Like, it was brutal. And I still have an ex-wife and two kids to support, but I couldn't. And it was just the most horrible time in my life. And to have it piled on top of that, it's like, okay, so now you've finally decided that you need help. About frickin' time, only 23 years late, which is normal. It's normal to go decades before asking for help. And most people never do, by the way. Most people, I never do put up their hand and say, yeah, I need help. So to treat us like a bunch of scammers is the opposite of reality. The reality is that most don't come forward. Most either crawl into a bottle, or they die of cancer, um, or they off themselves.
Yep.
There's two suicides: the fast and the slow. I've seen plenty of friends go with the slow, and more than enough that went with the fast way. But it's suicide all the same.
Yep.
And that's the reality of what we're going through. So to go through that and then to be treated like you're a problem, as opposed to being in an environment where somebody's trying to actually help you. A big part of that is cultural competence. Back to the therapist I had at the OSI clinic, she used terms like she told me that I had toxic masculinity and all these other things. She basically brought politics into our private sessions, and woke politics. And it's like, well, I don't know what that has to do with what we're going through here, but you're
not okay. Not
you're not
okay.
okay. Like, you're telling me here that I'm toxic.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm a man. I'm a combat veteran. What
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome
Yeah.
for what I've gone through, you
Right.
know?
Right. But again, as you say, you know, cultural competency is important. Understanding and having spent enough time with people who have served, who have been vulnerable for our country, people who have risked life, limb, psychological state. It's not okay. And and in my mind, shame on those who hire and don't make sure that there is some capacity to either have it or learn it, because this is not hard stuff. This is compassion, this is empathy, this is understanding basics of physical and mental health, and understanding then the cultural piece that is those who serve. Not okay for you to have. And I, on behalf, it's unacceptable. And I'm sorry you experienced it. And I'm sorry you're not the only one. It's not
Oh,
okay.
it's so common, and I know it causes suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these stories aren't about me. The only reason that I'm sharing them is for the audience,
Yeah.
so that if they've gone through something similar, just to know that they're not alone. And that's the only reason that I tell these
Mm-hmm.
stories. It's not like, oh, poor me. But the when a clinic is not working well, it aids and abets suicide. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Uh, when I knew I was getting closer and closer to the edge, um, and I told my therapist so. I said, "Look, I don't know what to tell you, but these suicidal thoughts are getting worse and worse, and like I don't think I would do it, but I don't know, and it feels like I'm getting closer and closer to the edge." And my concern was that a few life events happen all at the same time and push me over that edge,
Right.
and I actually do it, even though I don't think I would,
Right.
because I don't want to.
No.
But it's just these overwhelming urges. It's tough to explain. I don't want to die. It's the urges to off myself are
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable, and it's all I could think about. First thought in the day, last thought going to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm telling this to her, and she goes, "Well, do you have a plan?" I just laugh and go, "Dude, I got three plans,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know how I'd do it. I would open up my wrists." And so she said to me, "Well, do you know what knife you'd use?" I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Just take the knife that you think you would use, hide it, and if you haven't done it yet, you probably won't. I wouldn't worry about it."
Uh,
So that's what she said to me, and that was our last conversation.
I, I,
I I thought about that conversation for 2 weeks. I wanted to respond, not react, because I knew that uh, keeping a level head when I was upset, not easy. So I let that sit for a couple of weeks before I responded by email and basically said to her, um, "Well, that's a betrayal. So thanks, but no thanks.
mm-hmm.
Uh, you're fired."
Mm-hmm.
And I never went back to the OSI clinic again because I couldn't. I told the management about it and they did nothing about it, and nor did they follow up with me. Unfortunately, I was right about my assertions. A few other big events happened. There was a death of somebody that I used to look after, and a betrayal from somebody I thought was my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all happening at the same time. I went into mental overload, and I did try to open up my wrists in the middle of nowhere in Kananaska's country, out of cell service area. There wasn't another human being for miles. And somehow I survived it. It was a legit miracle. And so I saw it coming. I asked for help.
Yeah.
I was blown off. 2 months later, it actually happened.
Yeah.
And now I got no place to go. I got no place to go because there's no way in hell I could ever reach out to the OSI clinic,
No.
because that's what's known as sanctuary trauma.
Yeah.
The place that's supposed to help
Yes.
didn't.
Yes.
They dropped the ball and made it worse.
It's it. it really, sadly, it is not just making it worse, it's making it worse at such an intimate, violating level, because as you say, that's supposed to be the safe place. That's supposed to be the people that are helping. And when that doesn't happen, that violation is, and it takes that much more the next time to reach out for help, to say, I know I need to fix this, but now I'm going to have to trust in something else that may or may not fix it, because the level of, and I see that all the time. I start with an understanding that there is a level of distrust, and that's not because of time in service, it's because of time in service reinforced negatively out. And when you're looking for help and when you run into the sixth roadblock, it's it's a sad in my mind, a sad statement on how we treat. What we should be doing is the opposite of what we are doing. How we treat our veterans and RCMP and people who serve and put their lives at risk for us is so wrong. And part of when I was doing strategy for Havenpoint Health early on, part of why it was the first population, because I was going looking for where are people vulnerable in Canada, where are their gaps, what could we do to help, and that's where sadly it ended up, right? Because it shouldn't be. It should be the other way. It should be the absolute other way. There should be the easiest access to service, the best support we can provide. And it's just not there. I'm hoping it will shift. I'm hoping that feedback from veterans and from agencies such as ourselves and veteran agencies and folks like you will eventually help shift. But you shouldn't have to go looking in a day for where's the success story in helping somebody healed who served for Canada. It should be in my mind an automatic.
I was in Ottawa last October. It always seems to be Ottawa, October when they have me over there at the Standing Committee of Veterans Affairs. And to the Standing Committee of Veterans Affairs, I said, look, I'm probably almost certainly the number one subject matter expert in the country on modalities of healing. Call me for free.
Mm-hmm.
Let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me help you of where the issues are, what works, what doesn't work, what's available, what you should be supporting. Call me. I got over 350 episodes, mostly of Canadian resources, and frickin' call me
Mm-hmm.
and I will help you. And they haven't, and they don't. For whatever reason, and I don't know why, because I really do my best to not be partisan at all, but
Mm-hmm.
only the conservatives will talk to me, and all of them will. The only one I haven't got is Pierre Polyev. Everybody else has been on. I just had Fraser Tolmie on the show. Blake Richardson and I are friends. Like, uh, no problem getting any conservative on the show. But Jazzraj Singh, like it's so easy. But I keep inviting and inviting and inviting liberals, and they won't come on the show. They will not talk to me. And the invitations are there. So I'm
Makes
not
no
being
sense.
partisan. It
No.
makes no sense. Like, I'm just trying to help veterans here. At committee, I've testified 3 times in Ottawa. And after the first time, the second and third time, I was persona non grata. Nobody would talk to me. Nobody would ask me any questions. They just couldn't wait for me to shut up
Mm-hmm.
because I'm telling the truth and it doesn't
I
make
was
them
just
look
going to
so good.
say, because you're telling the truth, and the truth, unfortunately doesn't feel good if you're part of the system that is perpetrating the injury in that regard, right?
Well, part of that truth, I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that medical assistance in dying was being offered to veterans and that it was, in fact, policy. I ran the numbers through Grok. I gave them all the criteria. Okay, here's what's happening. What are the odds that it wasn't policy? and it is zero. Like it's like maybe 1 in 5 billion odds that it wasn't policy. Once AI had all of the factors that I was aware of that I could share. Um, so it was policy. It
Mm-hmm.
absolutely was. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I've proven that. I've had so many whistleblowers on. I've had everybody but a VAC worker on. But they swear up and down that it was just one employee at VAC that was offering MAID. Well, that's just not true. We had both male and female employees, so there's at least two, but it
Mm-hmm.
was across provinces, and they are queued by province, and it was across 5 provinces, male. So now we're at 6, maybe 7, right? Like it was policy. There was no way that there was half a dozen crazies that all had the exact type of crazy all at the same time, and
Yeah.
were offering MAID to people that were not inquiring about MAID. They were inquiring about, could you help me with my TBI, or what resources are available to me? And their answer was, well, we can't help you, but we can kill you. So that's real. And because I testified to that, they just will not talk to me. Have you come across clients that have been offered MAID at your clinic?
And clients who, in the face of,
So I'm
so
sorry, you
yes,
were nodding, but so for our
nobody
audio,
can, sorry. Yes. So, yes, I have. And um, I have come across veterans who are so worn down by the system and the pain that they are in that they have said to me in discussing a form or a process or something that came back denied, this is such an incredibly difficult process. I'm in chronic pain. I'm battling cancer. Those two things, on a day to day basis are exasperated by the fact that I'm trying to navigate and chase what should be supported automatically. And that's where, when somebody says, hey, what about MAID? Um, and she said to me, I mean, that was one of the founding things that sat in the back when we were starting discussions with the Canadian Legacy Project for the Sister Strength program, was this woman in the back of my mind, and I won't forget it. She said it would be easier to do MAID and end the pain than continue to have to fight and for what should be support. It's obvious. That's a horrific.
just in case anybody doesn't know, MAID is medical assistance in dying. It's euthanasia.
Mhm.
So it's the government offering to kill you. And now you've just heard it again. Yes, it is being pushed. When I hear the apologists on social media, MAID's not being pushed on anybody. Okay, asshole. Uh, yes, it is. How many whistleblowers do you need? Like, how
To
many
say,
people
yeah,
do you need to come forward before you believe that the truth is the truth?
yeah.
Yes, it is being pushed. Yes, it is. That's not bodily autonomy. That's predatory.
Hmm.
It's disgusting.
Hmm. It's
Like
not okay.
there's a time and a place for it, but there's never a time and a place for it to be pushed on people because of mental health or for
Hmm.
for any reason.
No,
But the defenders of it, it's just it's evil,
yeah,
for lack of a better
no,
word.
and a solution to somebody who's struggling is not ending their life. That should not be. Yes, there is an appropriate time and space for somebody to be in a position where they have to embrace the end of their life, but that is not because they haven't had the opportunity to either heal, access money to be able to recover or at least manage pain and heal at a level that gives them some quality of life that they're not willing to just give up because of the fact that they can't feel better and they can't function. There's a quality of life here that people deserve. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why it is so hard. You look at, one of the things we're talking about is that Sister Strength program. And you look at the fact that suicide rates are 80 to 90% higher in women veterans than in the general Canadian population.
So I want to talk about that. One of your programs that I really wanted to talk about today, because it's so important, is the Sister Strength program. I know for a fact that even on my show, women are absolutely underrepresented. There are so many women veterans, like if they have their veterans plates and people go, "Oh, is this your husband's vehicle? Is your husband a veteran?" Yes. Women are just not seen as veterans enough, and there are combat veterans that are women. I mean, I know women that have been in the bloody infantry. Kelsey Sharon was in the artillery and has a combat tour with horrendous combat stories of Afghanistan. So Sandra Perron, the first female infantry officer, she was in Croatia a year after me. She was there during the Great Purge. Women are veterans too, but horribly underrepresented and under-resourced because there are. So let's talk about that and what is the gap for serving women? Like, what is it that they need that the system is not providing?
Yeah. So mental health, number one, we start with physical. So on a physical side of things, we already know that there's a profile of men coming out with all of those injuries. So now multiply that because equipment that is already ill-fitting for men is not catered for the female body. So it's that much more amplified in terms of the injuries. We have that going on. We have a significantly higher rate of depression and anxiety, double that of men. As I mentioned, 80 to 90% higher suicide rate than the general female population. The numbers are staggering when you think about the fact that over half the women coming out. So if, according to Veterans Affairs, the last time I looked, there's about 670,000 veterans in Canada. And if that's the case, apparently 14% of them they note. So if you're talking 14% of them, you're talking, 93 odd. Well, if half of those women veterans are struggling with anxiety and depression, something's going on. Their women are twice as likely to develop PTSD as men are. And
why do you think that is? That's fascinating. I've never heard that number before.
Yeah. And I think part of it is probably a higher, obviously, they are a minority in service. They are 5 times as likely to experience sexual assault and military sexual trauma, because again, their livelihood and their ability to stay safe and the ability to, they're serving for country. I haven't got an exact statistic on a difference between men and women with moral injury, but I'm looking for it. But the reality is that it's a system that does not fairly represent and support the needs of women, and they have unique needs. I also believe too, it's like, I often liken it to when they come out, there's a 60% higher chance of them having difficulty on transition from service to civilian life. How much of that is just the difficulty they've experienced in service, and now they're out and feeling it. How much of it is like going from one high powered job one day and stepping into the same or similar high powered jobs. Lots of times women who are serving have families at home, may have aging parents. And I personally, not a stat, but I personally believe just seeing generally what happens is they step out of service, they're home, and they're picking up aging parents or young families. They're stepping into a caregiving role where their needs are naturally supplanted, just like any parents, to either the aging parent switch or the family that they're caring for. So it takes longer. That whole piece of taking a length of time to ask for help. I remember my father passing when I was expecting 6 months, expecting my youngest daughter. I didn't begin to even process, and we were extremely close. I didn't even begin to process for 3 years that loss. You just don't. You're so busy shoving things down and trying to deal with young family and newborn babies and all of those things. So it's a natural thing for it to be that there is a delay in processing, and they've been in a system that was not supportive of them coming forward. There is a fear in terms of, if I say something and I report it to VAC, is it going to be the same as reporting in service, right? So there's a huge distrust among veterans, and especially among, I think, women veterans who have been taught that the system is there not to support, but to further, provide, unfortunately, not the kind of support that they need. So we end up with women struggling.
So, what are the solutions offered by the Sister Strength program?
Sister Strength program. So, Canadian Legacy Project worked with, by way of background, Atlas Institute for Veterans and Families, had them do some research. It really looked at what was going on with that female population. They have funded 4 cohorts. They're a charity based out of Alberta that provide lots of programs for veterans outside of the system. They have funded 4 cohorts to go through the Sister Strength program, which has been designed. We were successful in partnering with them, and Havenpoint has designed a program with them that addresses some things. Number one, there are other programs out there that if they miss a session, a child is sick, somebody's in the hospital, something's going on, they're kicked out. Just because they're not there doesn't mean they don't need the help. They need the help. In fact, they've probably gone through 2 or 3 weeks of hell, and they need it more than they needed it before that. So we've done things like accepting it needs to be non-punitive, which other programs are. It was built to be longer, so it's 24 weeks. That's 6 months. It is weekly. It is run by certified, trained, experienced therapists. It is, it's interesting when you start doing conversations about the program, because you start to hear what they've experienced. Programs where people aren't certified, programs where they're not even in the country. They're delivering from somewhere around the world, programs where they're kicked out, programs where they are re-traumatized because the person running the group does not have the capacity to understand that sitting listening to somebody else's trauma is going to re-traumatize and leave the other participants further behind. So we've designed it in a way that there's length of time, that there's safety and security, in the fact that cameras have to be on participants. You can't have husbands or boyfriends or fathers or kids in the background. it has been reported to me, while you're having a conversation about what they experienced or what military sexual trauma manifests as their civilians trying to cope with that, right? So safety and security, group agreement, keeping it to a number that is 10, which it's not a mass auditorium. There's an opportunity to build a community. We've also identified, it was really important to Canadian Legacy Project, Dave Howard, their chair and president, for it to be that this was leading to not only the health and healing, but that at the end of it, there would be two individuals from each group that were identified, provided some training and mentorship to be able to take them afterwards to a place where the group could get together and have continued community support. So peer-led community support. We'll talk in the program about the difference between group therapy, group counseling, and peer support, and what's trained peer support and what's just peer to peer. Let's have a coffee or a drink and talk through our similar experiences, because all of those are different avenues to support, and it's important for people to understand the avenue that they're going down. Education is knowledge, right?
Peer support is something I've got a lot of love for. I was
Mm-hmm.
very reluctant to enter it. And then I ended up becoming a peer support facilitator, ended up being a leader.
Excellent.
And that was a stage of my healing that lasted for a few years, and I don't do it anymore. People have asked me to run peer support groups. I'm not sure that I want to again,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a very important modality for healing. I've
Yeah,
experienced how important it is. And it's really easy to do it wrong. It's
mm-hmm.
really easy to do damage. It's a very vulnerable position to be in these peer support groups. And it is so easy to screw it up. One of the big challenges with it is that there's so many of us that want to be helpy helpertons and, oh, I want to lead the peer support group. Oh, yeah, I can do it because I'm just a helpful person. But the people leading it are often not far enough down the healing path to be doing something like that. And then they
That's
end up
right.
burning out or screwing up um, because of emotional regulation.
Yeah.
So, what would you say are the top two or three do's and don'ts of peer support?
Well, peer support, number one, needs to be not that trauma dumping ground. It needs to be that the peer support leaders are skilled enough to understand when some, and it's easy to happen because you're there, it's safe, it's lived experience, people are sharing that, there's community. So it's easy for it to slip from something down a rabbit hole. So the peer support leaders have to be skilled enough to understand how to respectfully and supportively bring bring the group back to a place that isn't going to be further damage, right? And
One of our rules always was no war porn.
that's
Like,
yes,
like
yes,
we can talk in general terms, but we're not going to share the war porn.
that yeah,
It's just too fucking much.
yeah, and you can talk about what trauma is, what traumatic events are, without having to go down to the level that is. You can talk about what the symptoms are. You can base it in psychoeducation. You can base it in terms of being able to access resources and tools. You can have, right. So that's a key way to be able to move past to use your term, the war porn, right? It isn't about that. That's a different place. It's not for individuals. And I think, prior to going into peer led support, I know in Sister Strength, part of the curriculum is being able to help them understand and determine what is that peer-to-peer conversation that happens in the coffee shop, what happens in individual therapy, what happens in group therapy, and what happens in peer support, right? And being able to talk through how all of those can be very helpful, and they don't take away from one another. It's the same thing we say. You can be in individual therapy, couples therapy, and group therapy, and they should be all supporting one another, right? And that's the hope with peer support leaders. The Canadian Legacy Project is looking to build that network of folks who can support in the community after they've done, as you say, enough healing themselves. Because it's very similar. I've spent a lot of time in the trauma and addiction recovery space as well. And it's very similar to those who become peer counselors. And if they're not further enough along in their own recovery, they spend time on themselves and in a way that is more damaging to the participants, right? So it's about being able to provide education and support in groups to be able to guide veterans to where peer support is going to be a proper support in the community, and what can and shouldn't happen in those sessions, right? What to watch for is the other thing. And I'm sure as a facilitator, what are the red flags you watch for when you're leading a group like that say that maybe somebody needs to be having a ongoing conversation with an individual therapist or a psych assessment if they haven't had one, to connect them to a deeper level of help than is available in the very powerful, obviously, peer support arena.
There's so many things that can go sideways in peer support. When people play the Trauma Olympics, that's one of my favorites. So the Trauma Olympics are where people are like, my trauma is worse than your trauma. Like they're going for the gold medal.
Yeah.
And it also works the other way, where people go, wow, the other person went through way more than me. I mean, he was in Afghanistan. I was only in Croatia.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So the Trauma Olympics has no place there, but it's also, that's an education piece. That's the psych ed piece. Because understanding that it doesn't matter how you got injured, the mechanism of injury is irrelevant. Are you hurt? Are you injured? Does it hurt? Well, the end. That's the end of the diagnosis. Are you injured? Is it affecting your life? That's all we care. Don't care how you're injured. We don't have to get into that. So we'll talk about the symptoms and how the symptoms affect your life and how that manifests, and emotional regulation and all the things that come. So much of it is perspective. And hearing it from other people that are going through something similar, hearing stories, not the war porn stories, but stories how you shit the bed as a parent, or you shit the bed as a friend or a spouse, and understanding why you shit the bed. Like what was it that was going on with you that has you fail in these situations? And once you understand that, then you can make corrections. And one of the biggest, what episode was it? How to not wreck your camping trip. It was within the first 10 episodes, and I get more feedback on it. People don't realize that they're in, if you have a problem, kill it mode, because that's ambush training, especially in the infantry. If you have a problem, kill it.
Yeah.
It's not really an issue with the Air Force and stuff like that, but in the Army, if you have a problem, kill it. That's what you get trained to do. That's really what it boils down to. So it doesn't matter how many years you've been out. You could have been out for 30 years and you still have that tape running in the background, whether you realize it or not. And that is why when you go, camping trips are such a great example of it, because unconsciously it's reminding you of being in a bivouac, of setting up and being in the field, setting up a hoochie. So you don't think that you know that that's not what you're doing, but your subconscious doesn't. So you're in a, if you have a problem, kill it mode, do it right or die mode, and you're just sitting there with your 8-year-old kids setting up a picnic, but your body does not know the difference.
That's right.
So when things aren't going exactly perfect, when people aren't running like clockwork, your anxiety's through the damned roof and you're barking at people, get the hell over there and do this. I told you what, how many times do I got to tell you? And then zero people are having fun. And you could be looking at a divorce shortly thereafter. So people understanding that, and then the solution for it is one: realize that you're on a mission. Subconsciously, you're on a mission. I know you didn't know that, but that's what's happening. You're on a life or death mission. So realize that that's what your body is reacting to. That's what your amygdala is doing to you. It's screwing you up. And then have a solution, which is change the mission. So be conscious of it. Okay, this is what my body's going to
Right.
be doing to me. It's going to be lying to me and telling me that it's life and death when it's not. So when I feel the anxiety, that's just a lie. That is my body, that is my brain lying to me. So my new mission is harmony. My mission is good memories, peace and love, man. Peace and love. So making memories, smiles on the faces, that's the mission. So if I'm acting in a way that contradicts that, then I'm the one that's off mission, not my
Right.
family.
Right.
I'm the one that's shit in the bed,
Right.
not them. So people get into that point, and that one tool is one of the greatest tools. I still use it to this day.
Yeah. It's
It
very
works.
powerful. It's very powerful. And again, there is, as you say, there are physiological reasons it's happening, but understanding that, and that's part of the the benefit of therapy, group, individual, otherwise, where you do start to understand some of that, and in those moments can then say, oh, I need to switch the mission, right? And recognize why it's happening, and that it's okay that it's happened, because you can change it. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes time, it takes practice, it takes therapy. But that's part of what comes out of having some healing, right? And it becomes
Well,
easier.
the more you give into your amygdala, and you feel like having a rage fit, so you just have it.
Yeah,
The more you let go and just allow that to happen, it creates those neural pathways, and it
that's right.
becomes just the automatic response. And it's the same the other way. The more you catch it, it's like, oh, I feel a rage coming,
Yeah,
and you catch it, and you deal with it, and you redirect it. The more that you do that, new neural pathways start
yeah,
getting grown. And
yeah,
before you know it, you don't have road rages anymore. I couldn't imagine at one point not having road rages.
yeah.
Like I couldn't have imagined it. Talking with a friend of mine who's never served, he goes, "Geez, in that situation, I just laugh and wave." And it's like, well, that's a much better way to do it. That's way better than putting it in park, getting out of my vehicle and smashing out somebody's window and dragging them
Yeah,
through it, which may or may not have happened.
may or
Um,
may not.
may or may not. I cannot confirm nor deny, um, more than once. But once you realize that, oh, there is another way. Oh, this is just my amygdala is screwing me over. Oh, I can make a choice otherwise.
Yes.
The more you catch it, then the less of a problem it becomes. And I never have road rages anymore. I've had
Yeah,
road rages in front of with my children in the car.
yeah, yeah,
What a great dad I am! What an
yeah,
example I'm setting!
yeah,
Oh my goodness!
yeah.
But
But you know
uh,
what happens when it is, as you say, that you're doing that? Not only does it impact how you're changing, and for yourself, but for your kids. they see that correction. When that happens, the same thing happens with your peers. And that, again, is the power of group when you're in there and you realize, oh, this is shiftable. And I use that with parents and training as well as in groups where it is a question of we can shift. Our subconscious mind is operating on a plan. That plan can change by virtue of us making a decided choice to, as you say, let me just redirect here. Let me take a step left when I would normally go head on. And that does change. It does change the way you function. It does change the way the family dynamic goes. And it does provide, and this to me is the biggest thing, especially in the light of how high the suicide ideation is. Suicide rates are, it gives hope, because when somebody heals in the community, it gives hope. And that allows people to say, okay, I can do another day. I can do another half day. I'm going to see what happened there that maybe can shift it for me.
One of the reasons that people do die by suicide is to fall on the sword, especially military and first responders. Like, we're self-sacrificing people anyway.
Yeah.
So if we know that we're hurting our kids and we
Yeah.
know that we can't stop, the false idea pops into our head. Well, they're better off without me because I know I'm hurting them. I know I can't stop. I don't know what else to do. Better me than them. So, so people off themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I understand that. The reason I reached out for help in 2017 because I found myself screaming at my 8-year-old kid for doing nothing. Like, he tipped his plate and the crumbs hit the floor and I hit the roof, right? And I watched his face melt, and then I realized that I couldn't stop. Like, I saw the damage I was doing in real time, and I still couldn't stop. That was the day I called the Legion and I asked for help, because I've been trying to figure it out for a while. But I still thought everybody else was the problem, not me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was me. I was the asshole. And getting to that point, just like drinking or any addiction, realizing that you are the problem and that your actions are a problem and your behavior is a freaking problem because it hurts other people. And getting to that point is such a giant slice of humble pie that unfortunately most never take a bite out of that pie. So they just keep going down the toilet thinking that everybody else is the problem. But it was that moment with my well, that's loud in the background there. You got some loud noises in the background there, Colleen.
I have a windy door. It's blowing like crazy outside, and I have a windy door outside. Sorry about that.
It's all right. Sound like somebody was taking all the empties out.
No, it's a door swinging. I have a old country door on the front on the front porch that's taking a beating.
Well, how do people find Havenpoint Health? How do they reach out to you for help?
They reach out through our website, which is Havenpoint, all one word, .health. They reach out if they go to Canadian Legacy Project right now for the Sister Strength program, they'll get redirected back over to us. And we are there. We are keen to support. What you know and I know is it's shiftable. It is fixable. It is something that we can help with. And by addressing both better feelings on the inside and better physical, and they're tied, very tied. That was part of the strategy in terms of having both sides looked at. Mental health affects physical health health affects mental health. You have
Absolutely.
to treat all of it. And that's the other thing that our therapists and regular individual and group therapy, as well as the Sister Strength program, know we're talking about all of those things, and not just, okay, how's the PHQ, GAD, PCL5, those things that all of the veterans in RCMP end up being run through each time. Yes, they go through them because it's a good measurement, but there are other things that are, how's your patience with your family? Are you living on takeout because the thought of grocery shopping and cooking is overwhelming? How are you feeling when you wake up in the morning? If you've had a full night's sleep, did you have a full night's sleep? So we're looking at all of that and winding that in with the psychoed and trying to process trauma in a safe way. So best way to do it is find us on the web and reach out, and hopefully we can bump a few more folks through to a place where it's a safe landing, not another spot where they're let down. Hopefully it's a spot where they feel, and that's what our veterans tell us, which is thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for approaching it the way you are. So we keep trying and growing and learning as we grow.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Colleen. I really appreciate it. And for everybody that's been listening to this show, whatever the downside of reaching out for help is, I promise you, if you stick it out, the upside is better. Healing happens. It does. It's not a life sentence. Post-traumatic stress injuries are not a life sentence. You can heal. I've done a tremendous amount of healing. I don't suffer from suicidal ideations anymore. I have a really decent quality of life right now. And all because back in 2017, I finally reached out for help. So ask for help. And if talk therapy is just not your thing, that's what the show is for. I've got every other thing that's available. It's all throughout the show. Just scroll, and whatever catches your eye, listen to that episode. Doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start. You got to keep your feet moving. Nobody's coming to save you. 0 people are coming to save you. There is no outreach program. You have to reach out. You have to. So please do. And Colleen, thank you so much for all the work that you do and all the work that your team does. You are saving lives and relieving pain. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that. And thank you for everything you do. I've been through your episodes. They look fabulous. They lend solid support. And the fact that there's that choice to be able to say, not that one, but I think this one really makes a difference in people's lives. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Well, you got to meet people where they're at, right?
That's right.
If one modality is just not for you, okay, here's 47 more.
Yeah.
Like just pick
exactly.
One.
Pick one.
All right.
That's right.
Please stay on the line, Colleen. You're listening to Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. If what you've heard today has value, please help save a life by sharing. Share like the sugar bear, because sharing is caring.